Here's the whole story in 10 seconds. Getting to space got 97% cheaper, from $54,500 a kilogram to under $2,000, and that crash is building a $1 trillion economy. And the people getting rich off it? Most of them will never build a single rocket. That's the answer. 2015, one rocket landed on its tail, and the world economy quietly forked. What almost nobody understands is how a landing does that. The how is a 70-year-old story about a metal box, and once you see it, you can't unsee where the money goes next. The how has three parts: a box from 1956, a landing from 2015, and the machine they built together. Watch how each one snaps into place. To understand the crash, you need the 50 boring years first. Don't worry, I'll make them fast. 1957, Sputnik. 1969, the Moon. Governments were writing blank checks because space wasn't an economy, it was a battlefield of pride. Then came the Space Shuttle, and a promise, a reusable spaceplane that would make orbit cheap. It flew 135 times, and the price never really fell. Why? Because reusable was half a lie. Every flight threw away the giant orange tank, spent weeks refurbishing the booster rockets, and hand-inspected all 30,000 heat tiles, replacing the ones that cracked. Imagine an airline that scrapped half the plane after every landing, then charged you for a new one. That was spaceflight for 50 years. The price to orbit stayed roughly frozen, a flat line through Vietnam, disco, the Cold War, the internet. Every other technology got cheaper, space refused. Space refused. And the answer to why it finally cracked starts with a man who sold trucks. Malcolm McLean hated waiting at docks. He was a trucking guy from North Carolina, and in the 1950s, loading a cargo ship was medieval. Gangs of men carrying sacks, barrels, crates, one by one, for days. 60% of a shipment's cost could be just the touching, loading, and unloading. McLean's idea was insulting in its simplicity. Stop touching the cargo. Put everything in one standard steel box, lift the box with a crane, done. April 1956. His converted tanker, the Ideal X, carried 58 boxes from Newark to Houston. Loading cost fell from nearly $6 a ton to 16 cents, 97%. Sound familiar? Within 20 years, that box had rebuilt the world. Ports moved from city docks to giant automated terminals. Factories moved to wherever labor was cheap because shipping was suddenly free-ish. A toy made in Osaka could beat a toy made in Ohio on price in Ohio. One influential study later found the container did more for global trade than every free trade agreement combined. Nobody saw that coming either. The lesson, and remember it for Act 3. When the cost of moving something collapses, the map of who wins redraws itself. Half a century later, a man who sold PayPal looked at rockets and asked McLean's exact question: why are we throwing the box away? A Falcon 9 rocket cost tens of millions to build. The fuel? Roughly $500,000. That ratio is the whole story. It's a Boeing filled with kerosene, and we were scrapping it after every flight. SpaceX's bet was McLean's bet. Stop throwing away the expensive part. December 21st, 2015, after 3 years of explosions the internet laughed at, a Falcon 9 booster did something no orbital rocket had ever done. It came back, tail first, engines screaming against gravity, legs out, touchdown. Cape Canaveral, landing zone 1. Listen to the crowd in that clip. That's the sound of a price collapsing. Because a landed booster isn't a stunt, it's inventory. Fly it again and again. Some boosters have now flown more than 25 times, and the build cost spreads across every flight. The price per kilogram fell off a cliff, from tens of thousands to under $2,000. Airlines don't scrap the plane, shipping doesn't scrap the box. And as of the mid-2020s, the expensive part of the rocket, the booster, doesn't either. 50 years of frozen physics cracked by an accounting trick with landing legs. So orbit got 97% cheaper. Now the question that actually matters: who's getting rich off it? Time for the number with 12 zeros. Now the machine they built together. The space economy, satellites, launch, services, data, is already worth around $600 billion a year, and the big banks projected past $1 trillion within the next decade. But here's the part that echoes 1956. The money is not mostly in rockets. Launch is maybe 2% of it. Just like McLean's box, the fortune wasn't in making containers. It was in everything the cheap box unlocked. Walmart, IKEA, Amazon, global everything. Cheap orbit is unlocking the same second wave. Starlink went from zero to the biggest satellite operator in history in about 5 years. Thousands of satellites, millions of subscribers, beaming internet to ships, planes, and farms. Earth observation satellites now count cars and parking lots to estimate retail sales before Wall Street sees the numbers. GPS alone already underpins an estimated trillions in economic activity, and it was built when launch was expensive. Now imagine what gets built when orbit costs less than air freight. The rockets get the headlines. The booster just quietly changed who wins. But every gold rush has a catch, and this one has 3. Catch 1. The $100 kilogram doesn't exist yet. It's a target. Starship's promise of full reuse. It might land at 200 or 500. Even the skeptical numbers keep the crash intact, but treat 100 as a destination, not a fact. Catch 2. This crash has one driver. When most of the world's payload mass flies on one company's rockets, that's not a market, that's a toll bridge with good PR. Cheap access controlled by one hand can get expensive fast. Catch 3. Orbit itself. The box filled the oceans with almost everything you own, and also with hundreds to thousands of lost containers a year. Cheap orbit is filling space with satellites faster than we've agreed on traffic rules. Congestion is the tax on every transport revolution. So, the verdict. In 1981, $54,500 per kilogram, and space belonged to superpowers. Today, around $1,500, and it belongs to anyone with a business plan. If history rhymes, and it's been rhyming since 1956, the next Walmart, the next Amazon is being founded right now by someone who never builds a single rocket. They'll just ride the box. 54,500 toward 100. The crash nobody noticed is the biggest opportunity everybody missed.